live and continue with our life. Alrighty, welcome everyone. This is the last session of the day. It's an open QGIS chat. If you'd like to jump into the meeting, I will put that into the live chat. We're going to just continue with whatever we were doing. I think, Mark, we wanted to show you some cool stuff. If Penny jumps in, we'll have a look at her images, etc. And it'll just be the end of the day, a session as long as it needs to be. And thanks everyone for joining us. These are my favorite kind of sessions, super informal, total nerd out. Welcome.
Thank you very much. How far did we get?
I think he was going to show you our awesome St. Lucia project.
Yeah, except I went crazy with the Z exaggeration. Mark Cathian's probably, he's not talking to us today. Maybe it's because I add too many Z exaggeration levels on his project, but he's, let's put it back to something less insane. There we go. That's the kind of thing you can set up if you've got.
So we can see.
Okay, it works much better, yeah.
Hey, there we go.
You missed my crazy. I had the Z exaggeration.
Switch it back. I love Z exaggeration. I mean, yeah, it makes it super exaggerated, but it really shows you the landform. That's wild. I didn't know QGIS could do this level of rendering.
Yeah, just have a good dem, basically, is the secret. I had a nice fly-through, but I don't think my fly-through is... does it remember it? No. I had one that flew around the whole island, but it's on the other view, which I can't open. Oh, maybe it's that one.
Have you used the Skybox functionality much, Tim?
I did in the beginning, but it just crashes QGIS all the time. I haven't tried it for a long time. Skybox basically lets you put an image in the background in the sky instead of just having white. And you can make a 3D, there's some 3D image format that you can use, which will then, like as you sort of looking around like that, it will show you the sky not just as a single blue color or something, but as a different, like a wraparound image.
Who's in charge of building this sort of stuff?
In charge?
Yeah, so I don't know how it operates. I don't know. I know that it's that QGIS is a system where it's like open source and people have been building tools, and then if the tools are good enough, they get integrated. But in terms of like who's in charge of what and who's developing what, that 3D stuff is incredibly impressive. And I'm just wondering who's been developing that.
The guys from Lutra, they in your neck of the woods, in the UK, have done most of the 3D stuff. Yeah.
Nijima was part of the Google Summer of Code, and he did a lot of the like Skybox functionality and a few 3D things as well, I think. Tim can correct me.
Yeah. So yeah, it's anarchy, or friendly anarchy. So everybody just goes off and does their own thing, and then. But if you want your code, and that's also why I was saying don't write your stuff in C++, because if you want your code to have land in QGIS, then you've got to go through some review process, and probably you'll face some heartbreak and rejection feelings if your code's not accepted. But if you do it in Python, you make your own plugin, then you're out in the Wild West, part of the anarchy world. You can do what you like, and nobody's going to complain if you because you're not trying to change the experience for all of the users. Keep a community just for a subset of them.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. I'll stick to Python for now then. I can barely code in Python, so I'll worry about C++ another time.
Yeah, I would say unless you're trying to improve something in the core, if you're trying to make your own tool, which is a niche tool like you're doing, I would just stick in Python because you've got no productivity gains doing it in C++.
I would cry if you asked me to redo it in C++. Cry and freezing with a laptop.
All the little dots to little arrow symbols, and then it's basically the same code.
You've got to do references to pointers as well, haven't you? If I remember my uni days correctly. And the pointers thing I never understood.
Did Penny come back into the room or not?
No, but she sent me an email thanking us, and I'm going to. Can I quick share my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, let me do. Well, let me know if you can see me.
Yep, I see your screen.
Cool. So she said thanks to everyone who was able to help her out. And she was able to make this really cool pan sharpened image that she's pleased with. So these are the whales, the thing which you can pick out really easily. She's going to play a bit more with it. Unfortunately, she doesn't have the time to join us for this open session. But she's going to come back to us in the future with what she has and maybe give us an update on her PhD project.
Cool.
So yeah, this is what she was able to make.
Is that a buffer and a mask? It looks like. Like clipped it to extent or something. No, clipped it to mask. Sorry.
We really roughly kind of made a line around it and made then a buffer around that. So this is all just a buffer of one line going along the coastline. Then she clipped the two rasters and then made the pan sharpened image just so that it was small enough that she was able to test it.
Just for performance gains, like if you're doing pan sharpening, you can leave the no data out of the equation and it's much faster.
Anyway, there are our strandings, which you can actually pick out really easily, which is quite interesting. So there you go. That's the update from Penny. Unfortunately, she can't join us. And yeah, so we can continue with just nerding out.
But Charles, give us an update on where we are with the changelog, and maybe you can recruit some volunteers out of the room here.
We are nowhere right now.
Oh dear. I gave you
That's my Friday evening that you're talking about. So tomorrow we'll be somewhere, but right now we're nowhere.
Do we have a new changelog page yet? Not even that. Okay.
No.
So how many days to the release? 20 something.
I think it's like 2 weeks. Is it on like the 15th or something, or the 18th, or the 17th? I think. Can't remember.
20 days, 20 hours and 51 minutes.
Yeah, so
that probably means about like 300 feature descriptions per day until the release. There's a lot of new stuff coming.
Yeah, it's this is the after the LTR, so it's like lots of new features, right? And we get the cool that profile framework, the 2D kind of cross-section framework, which uses all the like canvas renderings and stuff from the QGIS map frame. So that's pretty rad. I don't know how much of that is being backported. Do you know, Tim?
No, none of it.
Only for us. You live on the edge. Yeah.
I know I've got a pull request that Niall was kind enough to feature freeze exempt.
What does it do even?
It's the print layout scale bar data defined overrides.
Oh yeah, I think I had a look at it. That's cool.
Mark, you mentioned at some point using GitHub forking pull requests. Did you want to know more about that? Because there's no one better to ask than Charlie and Tim. So if you want to get down there,
if that's not going to, if that's not going to encroach on the other conversations, I would love to know more about that. I'm one of those kind of guys who, if I want to learn how to do something, I need to see a tutorial or I need to be shown once, and I can run away with it. It's just if I've got to sit and read walls of text on how to set something up, I go word blind. Which is why docs aren't so good for me.
Charlie's YouTube video.
Oh, I didn't get Vicky's link from the other chat.
I'll email them to you. Don't worry.
Ah, perfect. Thank you.
What YouTube video have I got?
Didn't you do a GitHub walkthrough with our interns?
You did. It's unlisted currently because I didn't make it public. But yes, there is one.
Did someone record me? Tough luck.
Yes, we were recording it.
I wrote a pretty nice article on like the basics of Git that was published this week on the handbook, Tim. That's pretty like it explains like how Git works and stuff. It's pretty nifty, I think. I don't know like what complexity level it is.
It's got to be better than what I've currently got set up, where at the end of every day of doing coding, I'll just package it into a zip file and put it on Asana and be like, right, that's my backup.
That is, it's going to be definitely better than that.
You said you have an article for that, Charlie.
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up now, looking for the right buttons. And
it's a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, my clackety keyboard, and I've also got like builders that just rocked up somewhere around our property. I'm not sure where. So if I have to get up and go shout at them to get off my lawn, I apologize. Cranky old man. So yeah, I'm just trying to. We've got like a GitHub repo that we set up recently in our organization, and I'm pretty much trying to use it, or like trying to get the staff that we work with like to use it as like a knowledge base. It's just Markdown really. So it's text files with this kind of. If you go to the raw section, you'll see it's got like fancy syntax. But basically, you can just style things because styling things with Word documents and it's just very inefficient and very painful. But
yeah,
we've
it's
got a
hard
bunch
to
of
pull
resources
across.
here. Yeah, so like it's kind of developing slowly, but like things will grow over time, I suppose, and as the community like contributes to it, it'll get better. But things like in a lot of instances, when you work with Kubernetes, for example, you can't just access your service. You have to go and list all the pods, and you need to like find the name of the pod, and then you need to run the command against that pod, and it's painful to figure out. So like often when you're developing and stuff, you like write out these kind of one-liners that make you more productive and efficient. And I suppose most people just like store them themselves, but I don't know. I've never really bothered. I'd rather just like publish it, and then other people can tell me where I can be more efficient. So there's lots of sheets that'll be going up, making things more efficient. Here I wrote a primer on Git. So you got to dig for it. You can see you've got to go to like resources, tutorials, general, and then find Git, because we're going to have lots of information on the page.
Charlie, can you put that link into the chat of this so Mark can just click?
I wonder if my Google Foo can catch that as well. Coding for QGIS is maybe very good at Google.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know
I'd rather
how
take the link,
SEO is on for like the search engine optimization on this probably doesn't exist, and I think I published it at like midnight on Thursday or something, so it's not been up long. You can see, if anyone wants an easy contribution, I made a typo here. Instead of users, I said sewers. So if anyone wants to help out, go for it. We'll merge it quickly.
Was that not a Freudian slip?
Yeah, must be. Yeah. But yeah, there's basically like this actually goes through like the practical examples of like branching and stuff in Git. But the nice thing, and the reason that I want to share it, is that we have this. It's just draw.io or diagrams.net, and I just set up like mental model that's mapped out of how Git works. So basically, in Git, I describe it in the article, but basically I say that Git itself as a version control system can be thought of more like a change monitoring tool. So a lot of the things that confuse new people to Git is we'll say like, don't stick a large image like a TIFF or something, or a zip file into a Git repo. And people don't really understand why. But the reason is that because Git is actually monitoring the changes that happen with every new commit. So if you add a file and then you delete a file, you actually end up duplicating that data twice, even though it's no longer like a meaningful part of the repository. And when we use it primarily, it's meant for like text files, really. So code, and it actually measures like changes in specific lines of code. And the way it does that is it's kind of like it does these deltas or what we will call a diff, and then it hashes it, and each of those hashes become, I can actually zoom in so you can maybe see the picture. But basically, it hashes it as like a unique point in the history of your like code base. And then as you commit changes, you get a new kind of history chain forming with each commit, which is uniquely identifiable. And when you're on a branch or whatever, or on the main branch, you like kind of working in what we call the head region of it. And then the idea is basically like with a conventional or legacy kind of version control system. I mean, a lot of places still use it. Things like SharePoint Subversion as well. Like when Alice wants to work on a file and make sure Bob doesn't break it, Alice will say, I'm checking out this file, lock that file, don't let anyone publish changes to it. So, Bob can't make changes, or they have to go through like a procedure of like overwriting the checkout from Alice to make those changes. That becomes quite a bit of a mess to manage when you've got like a distributed system or like an open source community with lots of contributors. So Git is primarily a distributed version control system. So basically everybody like takes that chain that we had a picture of a second ago, and they take it from a certain point and they create a fork to make a new branch. And then their references kind of work in parallel to other people's development. And then you can like merge it back, right? So when you check out a branch, sometimes you'll keep like specific features on the branch, in your own work, so that you don't like, you can just change back to the main branch and then pull everyone else's new changes down. And that's basically, I mean, the reason that we use the concept of trees and branches is because that's what it does. Like, you've got like
speaking my language as a forester.
Yeah. Exactly. we knew you were coming, so that's why everybody named it, especially for you. So yeah, you basically
of
like
today's open day have been the best so far.
Yeah, so I mean, you check out like to a new branch, and you form a new head from it, and you start working and committing your changes. Obviously, this is like a core function of Git and GitHub. So like you find them there, and then when you want to, I've got some commands in here. How do you want to like change the branch or whatever? And then things get more complex, right? So you've made your changes. Say you've like, for example, made a new feature for QGIS. Like we were talking about data-driven properties for one of the components in the print layout. Obviously, while you're working on that, you don't really want people to not be able to contribute to, say, the QGIS file browser. So you fork, you go onto your own branch, and you move along and you commit your changes. And this works kind of like a time machine. So like if you make a mistake, you can just hop back, in time. Or, I forgot what I typed, and, the render was working, and now I've done something and broke everything. What did I do? And what did it look like when it was working? So I can compare my branches or jump back and commit history and so on. But then once your work is completed and you want to merge it, essentially, you need to be able to, you pretty much just like add these changes back into the main kind of chain of history. So that's where these merges come in. And when that happens, of course, like Git needs to verify, did you change any lines of code that someone else was working on? Like, because from the time that you forked, someone else could have changed the line, and then you on your branch changed the same line, and now it becomes a conflict. So that's where the more complex like features, I suppose you could call it, of Git come in. you need to either rebase, and what rebasing is basically if everything that you have added is like new stuff, you can literally just like push the point at which you forked your branch forward in time to like the latest commit or whatever the case is. Or you need to go through and manually say, okay, this line, I need to add a new line because someone else changed that line and I want to keep it. Or I need to like say, oh, the things that they changed between the time that I forked and they introduced those changes are actually deprecated or redundant. You can delete them. So you need to Git has no way of knowing, who the authority is. It doesn't try and say, okay, this account has like preferential treatment or something. We must take all of the code from that branch or whatever the case is. You need to go and manually fix those conflicts. So that's basically the concept of branching and so on. All the other stuff, we talk about squashing. Squashing is basically, if I make 60 commits on a branch, because I need to make sure that, in South Africa, my power goes off very regularly and I need to make sure I don't lose my work. So I've got lots and lots and lots of commits on that branch. Basically, when I go and commit it to QGIS, or like the upstream project, I don't really need someone reviewing my code to go through all 60 different commits. I can go and say, okay, I only changed 6 files, and I can squash all those commits into like a single set of changes so that like we keep things clean in the main repository in the upstream. And then stashing is basically if I'm making changes that I have not yet committed and I want to change branches or I want to pull updates from the upstream or whatever the case is, then I can go and stash them. It's pretty much like committing them not to the Git history, but you kind of like commit them so that you don't lose that data. That's basically most of the concepts of Git that are like, I think, pragmatic. It's a beast. I probably don't know, my way around 2% of Git, and a lot of people use it every day for very important things. So it has lots and lots of fancy features. But yeah, that's the basic concepts. These other things like pull requests and merge requests. That's basically when you've made your changes on your branch or your fork, and you want to commit it to the upstream. Then you submit, depending on the platform. That's not a feature of Git really. That's like the platform, GitLab, GitHub, Bitbucket. If you're running your own Git distribution or whatever the case is, then you go through a process of saying, hey, whoever the maintainer of this repository is, I would like to make changes. How do you do that? You add some documentation. Each project has its own conventions. That's where like your contributing MD and your templating in your like GitHub's templates comes in. And then you say, okay, I would like to make these changes. The reason for the difference in like nomenclature is pretty much that with a pull request, it's basically the first thing that you're saying to people, would you like to pull my changes into your branch? So the first thing you're going to do is pull. And the merge request is actually like the last thing that you do when you commit those changes into the upstream like main branch or whatever, you're merging it in. So does the same thing essentially. It just takes your changes and adds it onto the main like upstream branch, and you can merge you don't have to merge into the main branch. You can merge into like from any branch into any other branch. It's basically Git is just tracking all those little commit changes and those signatures. And then also, like I say, you don't really want to commit things like zip packages into Git or archives rather, sorry. So what you'll do is you'll make a release or packages where you have your compiled exe or whatever distribution and you add all of that. But that's all platform specific stuff. And that's pretty much it. And I said at the bottom here, too long didn't read, just get GitLens for VS Code because it's very pretty and tells you like everything that's happening in your Git repo. So it's like a graphical tool. So you don't have to learn all these commands and things. Like it actually shows you what's going on under the hood very easily. So I'm going to give myself applause and stop sharing.
Thank you for that, Charlie.
And I'm still online.
Yeah, that's made it a lot more easy for me to understand. It was because it's quite intimidating when you don't understand a software platform to then be reintroduced to introduces something like Git, which has, like you say, you're only using 2% and you already sound like an expert. So with the 98% that's available, you're kind of just overwhelmed with information. But that's made me feel a lot more confident about engaging with Git instead of just doing what I said before. I just zip everything up and put it on the internet and say, right, that's my archive.
Yeah.
Be fair, Charlie, it's at least 5%.
Must be. Yeah. I think also people have the same issue with databases. So databases, for example, are like I mean, if you go to stock markets and these like complex data-driven applications like big data and AI, and machine learning, and all that sort of stuff, like the things that you do with databases can get very complex. And when you're optimizing queries for performance and architecture, then you're working with like system administration and DevOps and everything with your database. But the database itself is really just like, we've got multiple attribute tables that are joined to each other by, you're essentially joining one row of attributes to another row of attributes by like a reference. That's basically databases in a nutshell. It's just tables. And it scares people because it can be complex. And then when you go on the internet, everyone's like, it's way complex. Git as well, I think, also had this problem where it was much, much more difficult to use 10 years ago. And people were like, and nowadays it's not as difficult. So hopefully less scary and more people get into it and start contributing to open source, because we're not so judgy. And if we are, we're not going to tell you. We'll just judge behind our screen. So we'll
talk trash behind you. All right. Well, thank you for that, Charlie. I really appreciate that.
No, that was great. And I will send you then, if you don't have the link to that, I'll send you the link to this and that random video and Victoria's video. Victoria, you also wrote a blog on that, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, I'll share that as well.
Thank you. You got on the I'm glad that you're keeping track here. It sounds like a massive list of stuff to send.
It's all here.
We'll stick it in a wiki, in the QGIS Open Day wiki.
Want to pick up on the message from Faraz?
Oh, I see there's a quick question from Faraz. Hello, all trying to understand QGIS. We want to find an alternative to Arc server, which works on the local SQL host, publishing data. Can we do the same with QGIS server? I also cannot use QGIS desktop as our users would provide GDB files using the UI, which we need to store into SQL via QGIS server. For us, do you have a speaker? Maybe you can chat to us so we can actually talk.
Sure.
Let me. Brilliant. Yeah. Awesome.
Yep. So you want me to explain that?
Yes, please do that. Be great.
Sure. So for us, the scenario is that our users would provide us some GDB files. We used to use ArcGIS desktop to convert those into a certain formats and convert them into text files. And those text files are then, stored into our SQL, and that is used to kind of provide data to our customers. So we want to make use of ArcGIS server now, we are trying to make use of ArcGIS server, where users can provide those same GDB files. And instead of going through the desktop tool, we want to do it all programmatically to convert that data.
So are you using the ArcGIS server for the web map, like serving actual web maps, or are you using it as just a database data store?
As a database store, yes.
Okay. You can use PostgreSQL with PostGIS for your database backend that will host all the data.
Uh-huh.
And you can use OGR to OGR, which is part of the GDAL library, to convert the file geodatabase straight into Postgres.
Oh, can you tell me that again? The OGR to OGR?
So it's so GDAL is not only a big library that allows reading and writing a ton of geospatial formats, but it also has a couple programs that are used to manipulate those. OGR to OGR is what takes vector formats and converts them to other vector formats. So you can input a file geodatabase and then output it to a Postgres table.
Oh, okay. And is PostgreSQL the only option? Because we use Azure SQL, and that's the approach we still want to go with.
I think. Sorry, go for it.
No, Charlie, you go.
Right. So I think there are multiple SQL drivers for OGR to OGR. Tim, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure which ones exactly are supported off the top of my head. I mean, QGIS also natively supported a bunch of different like data providers from different database systems, but I think some of them, like, you know, they don't get maintained or they don't get funding. So I think like DB2, for example, was like dropped recently, or maybe it was Oracle. I think it was DB2. So like you can use pretty much any database system, and then just like convert like your GDB, like using GDAL or like OGR to OGR into whatever like SQL structure that you like. I think there will be limitations in terms of the geometry and geography types that are provided by something like SQL Server that integrate directly with I think it's SDE binary or something, you know, like those specific data types that come with ArcGIS Server, I don't think will be supported. You'll have to just use like standard geometry, which is you pretty much like for most applications, it'll be fine. And then I think, Tim, are you around? Maybe you want to talk about like OSGS. I don't know if you've got anything in that backend that will like just you can use the file browser and drop in a GDB and convert it into
for publishing projects, you mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, just converting data from GDB to PostgreSQL. Is there...
So when you're talking about geodatabase, are you talking about file geodatabase or the normal
I think
geodatabase?
GDB files.
Yeah,
because the Esri file geodatabase format is supported by, but I believe the other one is not. Or maybe it is the geodatabase format. I believe it's not supported by OGO. So we have to make sure we're talking about the same thing first of all.
Chances are he's referring to the file geodatabase, as that's pretty much Esri's default. Esri no longer supports the personal geodatabase, which is the Microsoft Access MDB files.
Okay. But I thought, because I thought that when they first announced the drivers for the open source drivers, that they only supported one of those. Was it the file geodatabase or the personal one? I don't know.
No, it's the file geodatabase. The other thing is probably like if you're using lots of coded value domains and stuff, I don't know how like OGR would handle that. Like you might have to fix your key references after the fact.
It does not support domains.
Yeah, so you'll just get like the value. Like if you go in like ArcGIS Pro and you set up like a new file geodatabase, you can set like lookup tables essentially. So you'll have like you could get people to use a drop down that says Australia. So you would have to go and fix those references essentially as keys to other tables. So that's something you would have to do manually.
For us, do you specifically want to use QGIS server? Is there a reason you want to specifically use that?
So yes, so how today we can get data from ArcGIS. Like our customers, they can get their data from ArcGIS by using certain links, URLs, and they can host that data on their, they have their own web map and they can host it on there. So we want to kind of get rid of it and keep it in our system instead of keeping it at ArcGIS. Having a server at our place, having the data at our place, and then host it out so the customers can directly access from our place instead of going to ArcGIS or Esri in order to get that data. So because of that, we want to see other options as well, like maybe QGIS server is one of the options which can be used. So I'm totally new to this, so I'm trying to still understand and learn.
All right. Does anyone have any comments on that?
So pretty much what it seems like you're doing is you just want to serve the data itself to others to use in their own web maps, correct?
Yes, and this is all internal to us. I mean, it's not going out to any other external customers.
You could probably get away with just using GeoServer. Output WMS, WFS, probably WFS.
Okay.
So it has or allows the client to style the layer as they choose.
Okay.
GeoNode, yay!
Yeah, there's a bunch of options really. Like if it is publishing, that is your goal. So like basically with, if you're using something like ArcMap and ArcGIS Server, you go and you say, okay, I want to publish this to ArcGIS Server, and then ArcGIS Server pretty much prompts you through the interface with ArcMap saying, hey, because you can store data on the ArcGIS Server, and then it knows to reference those layers from the server and not from the client, or do you need to upload the data at the same time? It does that kind of through the interface. Do you want to upload the data? And then it does it. It's not very efficient, but like it does it for you. Whereas with open source, you kind of need to like supply the server with the data or set it up in like a central data store with like PostgreSQL or something yourself, and then build a front end or content management system on top of that. So there's a bunch of options. Again, we talk about GeoServer, GeoNode, G3W Suite, like if I'm understanding your needs correctly, is probably like the closest thing to what you want, where like you can upload a QGIS project to the server, and then it comes with its own map, and you can store the data there, and then people can access and download the data, and then you can customize the map interface and stuff. It's like a very nice like content management system for that sort of thing.
But
I think GeoNode
for
is
us
more
doesn't want to use QGIS desktop, so I'm assuming there are no QGIS file projects.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that like GeoNode is more of a spatial data infrastructure. You publish individual layers, and then you build maps from those layers on GeoNode, right? So G3W works kind of like ArcGIS Server, ArcMap, in that you can just say, here's a QGIS project, and here's the data, the source data, and it'll give you a file upload window, and you just push it all to the server. So you can do the same workflow, but the thing is that you're doing it with QGIS files and like your file-based data. I don't know. It's possible that you could get something like G3W Suite set up and then put custom logic, because I think it's just a Django app. It's open source. You can customize it and modify it and extend it. But you would have to write that logic that takes file geodatabase, data sources. You could probably like just publish it that way. If QGIS reads it, G3W Suite should read it. And if the data source is referenced correctly in the QGIS project file, it'll be fine. But the thing is, to render the web map, you will need a QGIS project file. The only way that people are going to be able to style and modify their layers and publish it is with QGIS desktop. I don't see a way around that with that particular platform.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Good. It was fun to talk. Or was it talk? What did you say, Amy?
I don't know. I can't remember from 1 minute to the next. I'm sort of a stupid, intelligent person. Alrighty. So does that help for us, or do you have any other follow-up questions?
Like I said, I'm still trying to learn and understand. So, for now, I think I get like different ideas to go about. But you guys do have these open chat around like some other times as well, so we can, if I have any other questions as well.
Yeah,
Last Friday of every month. Yeah.
Okay.
And then also do go into the QGIS Open Day Telegram chat. It is on the wiki for this QGIS Open Day. It's actually on all of them. And then ask the questions. If you are looking at like hosting your own QGIS server and serving up data to your clients, that's what I understand that you need. So you need to take data from whatever is in Arc already in their own database in that file type. And you need to take it, and you want to host your own one using QGIS Server, and you want to get the data there and then serve it up to your clients. You can just grab the data from that. That's my understanding of your search. I hope it's right. So if you want, advice on any of those steps, that's probably the best place to get it, because someone like Charlie and Tim and them, that they're used to working with databases and putting, data out there.
Okay. And but here it says the open day is like the last day of Friday. So is that the only day, or?
So it's just the last Friday of every month we have the open day. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, the sessions are recorded. So if you want to go back and listen to the advice that Tim or Charlie or anyone in the session gave, you can just go and catch this video again. They're put up as a recording.
Sure. But if I were to access any of you guys any time of the day, will that be possible, or no, only once a month?
Oh, yeah,
On
no, that's what the Telegram channel
The Telegram group, yeah.
Oh, the Telegram group. Okay, thanks.
And there's like 2,000 people in that group, so your voice may get lost, but you just ask in a nice way, and try to find somebody who's interested to help you with your question, or somebody who usually is pretty helpful. But you just got to also do a bit of social engineering to get your question answered, because 2,000 people in a group, everyone's busy with their lives, so
Makes sense.
Lives.
Sometimes
What's a
it just
laugh?
takes a bit of persistence.
QGIS's laugh.
Alrighty. So hopefully we've answered your questions, or you have enough. Sorry, there are hardy dolls outside.
Hardy
That's the
dolls.
noise. Yeah, sorry. I live
For
in
everyone
Africa.
watching, that's the common ibis from South Africa. It's a wonderful creature. It makes a tremendous racket.
Sounds like a screaming child.
No, that's a bird that just flew by. They roost in one of the trees in our garden.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
They're lovely birds.
They're great. Anyway, Google hardy doll ibis, and you'll see that they're that thing. Any other questions? Does anyone have any other questions? Anything they want to talk about? We still do have 20 minutes of the session, or we can round off early. Ooh, there is a question in the live chat from Bernard, big F, small FM. Hi, everybody. I am very, very new to QGIS, and I just know how to start it. Where can I ask questions? I have tried in the Facebook groups, but no answers there. I think the best thing would be able to point Bernard is to some of the tutorials that are for very beginners.
Well, ask him which country he's from first of all, because I would suggest the first place to go is your country user group, because most or find the nearest country user group to you, because most regions have got one or two user groups going on, and there'll be people on the same time zone as you, and who maybe have got the same data sets that they're trying to work with as you, speak the same language as you, and all these kind of nice things. They will make your life a lot easier if you're trying to just get started and get help. So maybe they're answering.
And the Telegram group, rather than Facebook, I think is a bit more active.
Yeah.
Facebook is 50,000 people, so
yeah, it's a lot of people.
Like
Germany.
Charlie and me, and have problems with people, then maybe that might be a bit overwhelming.
Germany is where we're coming from. And just one question.
There's a German user group, and they're very active and active contributors to QGIS, so they'll be able to give you everything you need to know. We can maybe you can put up a browser and show the user groups page there, Amy, on the QGIS website.
Don't you want to show like the Easter egg on QGIS desktop? Huh?
Yeah.
So, Tim, do you mind pulling up your screen, just because I'm currently streaming, so I can't like the YouTube side of it. I suppose I could just share one window.
Just give me a second.
Sure. And then the last question is, how do you create MBT tile files? I get a SQLite block error.
So there's a built-in processing tool for doing that. Charlie,
for the user groups.
Yes, there you go.
Thanks, Charlie. Alrighty.
So there's the Easter egg in QGIS, which Charlie's muted, so you can't hear him telling you that right now.
That's very cool.
Thanks. Hey, I actually got a nod in the changelog for making this styling recommendation, by the way. If my camera was working, you'd see me dusting off my shoulder. But yeah, you just go to the coordinate bar and you type in there user groups. And then it comes up with, like, it shows us where all the user groups are. And if you use the identify tool, it'll tell you about it. United States, Brazil. Waiting for my Cathian to set up St. Lucia.
Yeah, still blank blob there, my Cathian.
And then, of course, all of these user groups that are listed here.
Yeah. So definitely have a look at contacting the user group for Germany. And then, Charlie, while we were there, while you were sharing your screen, would you mind just showing in the processing toolbox / wherever that you can make MBT tiles? Also, I think Bernard is currently using 3.16.9. I would suggest, I mean, you can make MBT files in that, but try using sort of the newest version. So if you can see on Charlie's...
again. Excuse me. But I'll learn how to use these computer things one day. But I don't think that was the issue. So, I mean, of course, if you go to the processing tools, they have MB tiles. But the problem they were having is that they said there's an invalid lock file. So basically, MB tiles, which is like, it's Mapbox tiles, because Mapbox used to be very active in open source. And they made a standard for defining like a tile structure that goes straight into a SQLite database. So MB tiles is just a SQLite database, but SQLite, of course, like being a flat file database, it only allows you, like, one person can write to the database at a time. That's why we use things like PostgreSQL. Like GeoPackages are also SQLite database. Only one person can write to it at a time. So basically, the way that the files, like the processing tools and stuff, make sure only one person is using that file at a time, and prevent like data consistency problems, is to make a lock file. They just make like a, whatever your .mb tiles is called, .lock, and then the system knows, hey, I can't write to that file, someone else is using it. What will happen is sometimes you have it open and your process crashes. So like if you have QGIS open and you have a GeoPackage open, and your QGIS crashes or you close it while a process is running, GeoPackage also has like I think it's a SHM or whatever, and a WAL, which is like a write-ahead log, same as like Postgres uses. So those files don't get cleaned up when your process stops. And then when you try to use it again, you'll get these kinds of errors. So same thing with GeoPackage, same thing with like anything that's SQLite based. You kind of have to go and manually remove the lock file. Generally, either just trying a new like output location, make sure you have write permissions to that location, whatever the case is, and make sure you're not writing to an existing file, and you should be okay with that particular error. Of course, there could still be bugs where like you're encountering a bug where it thinks it's locked, but it's not. In that case, try use whatever like community resource you have to address it. And like narrow down like what exactly is happening, and then open an issue on like GitHub, so one of us nerds can go and figure out how to fix it.
And also just the general QGIS, problem solvings. Try, a new user profile. Try the latest version of QGIS or the latest long-term release. I see you using an older version. So in the newer versions, these are bugs that might have been fixed already. So definitely try that out. Charlie's just showing you how to do the user version.
Yeah, I'm gonna change my where's my setting? Settings. I'm gonna change my interface so that we can see a bit better. And then I'll restart QGIS and things will be a bit easier to figure out.
If I remember correctly, Hans van der Kwast also has a really good tutorial on how to make MB tiles. I mean, it was with reference to creating a input project but he used the tools to create the tiles. So have a look. There's a tutorial by Hans van der Kwast on creating an input project, but in that he makes the tiles step-by-step sort of tutorial style. I can't remember off the top of my head what the name is, but have a look at his channel, and it should be there.
Yeah, so for anyone like who's new to QGIS, one great feature is this like concept of user profiles. And basically, you know, with an ecosystem like QGIS, the core developers can't really control everything that goes, or like quality control for like plugins and stuff. It's very difficult to manage. So one really nifty feature is that we have user profiles. So if two developers develop plugins that might not be compatible with each other, or something's gone wrong under the hood, basically everything gets isolated into these user profiles. The same way as like you log into your computer, like, you know, Windows system, you log in as a particular user, you can do that just with QGIS. You create a new profile, and it becomes a bit challenging. You know, some people get used to their plugins and so on, and then they make a new profile. None of their plugins are available anymore. But that's like troubleshooting 101. Like, what is your plugin that's giving you trouble? Just install that. Just install what you need to a new profile, and 99% of the time it will resolve any of the problems that you are having. So really nifty feature, and QGIS troubleshooting 101.
Cool. Alrighty. So hopefully that helps you out. If you have any questions, again, join the Telegram channel. Definitely join the Germany user group. That they'll have email address, etc., on their site. They will, obviously, because they're local, etc., they'll be able to help. Although, Tim, I do think it might be useful in one of the next open days to have a I'm new to QGIS.
First, your first 15 minutes in QGIS or something like that.
Exactly.
First things you should do when you get a new install. Yeah, we could do something like that. We could have four different people each presenting what they think you should do in the first 15 minutes of QGIS and see whether there's any overlap.
Open the processing toolbox.
Asking a question there.
And I'm always right. So opening the processing toolbox is always the first thing you do.
You know, saving to a geo package should be the first thing people know how to do. Save your layers. That's my belief.
So Makathin wants to know about the document for the QGIS style file format. There is no documentation whatsoever for it, as far as I know, Makathin. It's a format that evolved rather than was designed. And but I think you're actually asking something different, because you say you want to transfer the style information from the QLD file to and I wonder if you mean a QLR or a QML file, but to a database styles layer. So the simplest way I would do that, Mark, unless you're trying to do it programmatically, Q layer file, okay. So I would just load the QLR file, open the layer, right-click it, and copy the style, and then go to the database file layer and right-click it and say paste style, and then in the option that Charlie's showing at the moment, you can say save as default, and it will save that into the database for you. And then if you want to have more than one style for that layer saved in the database, then don't say save as default, to say save to database. What is the option there, Charlie? You can have multiple save style. You can save it in the database. It's easy unless you're trying to programmatically deal with thousands of layers. Okay, you want to do it in a script. Yeah, you'd have to write some Python to get the get the layer, save its style as a QLR and whatever. You could probably write a script that iterates over a directory full of QLR files, and then extracts the QML file.
Yeah, one thing about writing things in Python and QGIS like that is that there's not an awful lot of abstraction on some of these things. So like some of the styles and the way that they're like exposed through the API, for example, they're quite complex. So like the things that you can do with the QGIS style, like you can add multiple layers and you can add multiple different sets of nesting and so on. And all of these objects kind of like exist in QGIS and they're accessible through QGIS. So when you're starting out, it can be quite a pain to figure out like what exactly you need to reference in order to like perform those functions. I often just like, if you use like the dir in Python, it tells you about all the attributes of an object. I often just like smash that a whole lot on whatever variable or object that I'm referencing, and then like get all the attributes and dig through it that way. But all that information is also available through the documentation. I don't know if there's like explicit documentation on those things though.
I don't think so, but Cookbook would be the first place I'd look. Or some look. Other thing I often do is look for a plugin where they've done something similar to what you're trying to do, and just go poke around at how they've done it from there. How many files have you got, Mark-Ethan? Is it like tens or thousands, or I suspect it's something to do with all your DWG files that you've been working up some magic with?
Alrighty, we have about 5 minutes until the end of the hour. We can, of course, continue, but I just wanted to ask a question that's come in from the live chat before the top of the hour. And Andres Morfin, I hope I'm saying that right, asks, is there a plan to move to a Discord server or Slack as the Telegram group grows?
I can answer this one. Okay, so there is an unofficial QGIS Discord server. We don't really promote it that much because that Discord is a proprietary platform. It is there, but it's not official. And that's the biggest reason why there isn't an official one. There are new technologies coming out, like I think there was one called Riot Chat or something. It aims to be a Discord clone, but fully open source and also self-hostable. It's still currently in beta. That might be something that we could look into for the future when it's more polished and released. But that's the answer for the Discord.
Yeah, we actually do have a private, and they changed the name from Riot to Element because of the bad name association with the word like Riot. And that uses this back-end system, what's it called again?
Matrix.
So we have the OSGeo has an instance, and we have a private group in there. But we haven't got a public group because as far as from what I've read, it doesn't scale very well to very large communities. So like 2,000 users on there will probably, you need a lot of hardware to run it for such a large group. There are a bunch of unofficial chat channels, and that's great if there's a Discord one or whatever. My opinion is that we should just provide forums to discuss and talk about QGIS wherever people are happy hanging out. So I like Telegram, so I hang out on Telegram. It's also not open source, by the way. So it's, but it just sort of evolved that a whole bunch of people started hanging out there. And,
it was convenient at the time and still is.
We should just make a list of all the unofficial groups somewhere on the website somewhere. Maybe your next PR, Ethan, can be start assembling a list of unofficial places. The Facebook group was given official status because they did an application to the PSC and said, well, we've got 50,000 people. We are of huge value to the community. We'd like to be given like official status. So,
I do actually have a QEP that that talks about a proposed new community, but and I do
think
actually
I read
reference.
it. Yeah.
I do reference the unofficial QGIS Discord server in there, mainly because of all the features that Discord offers versus stuff like Matrix and Telegram, because as it was mentioned earlier, that there's a bunch of people in Telegram and messages get easily lost. There's no real like groups. It's more like just one giant group chat. And something like Discord where you have multiple rooms can help break stuff out, where you can have a channel or multiple channels for help, one for general discussion, and such and so on and so forth.
It would be great to also have like a beginner channel, like I'm brand new to QGIS, and one for developers and people who are coding plugins, that sort of thing, because those are quite sort of more niche than
Me to share my screen to show what the
Live
Discord
streaming
server looks
is
like.
on.
we're not actually live streaming because I haven't told it to do it. There we go.
Yeah, Discord is it's so much to that platform. I mean, you can like pretty much guide new users in and tag them, but like it's also so much work to moderate. So,
Well, there are also a lot of bots and stuff that help with auto moderation.
Because even, what do you think? Because I have been thinking about this quite a lot with the open day and people asking questions and that sort of thing. I think it would be good to have, a subset of groups. But how is, you said Discord?
Discord here. Let me pull it up. Wait a minute. Same browser. Let's see. This one. Okay. Actually, want to go over here. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Discord. You're looking at Discord?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have, you can have groups of rooms and channels. Also, another really nice feature is a built-in integrated voice and video chat rooms. We have one thing that's really neat is we have a resources page where we post certain things that people can look for or look in for certain resources and stuff. Lots of stuff like NASA's Visible Earth, map projection stuff. We also have links to Ujval's QGIS tutorials, Anita Grasser's blog, stuff like that. We also have a feed from the QGIS Reddit. And I have this disabled due to massive amounts of stuff, but we actually have a hook where we can see all the changes in GitHub directly here. General chat related stuff, chat about plugins. Unfortunately, this isn't super helpful because there's not a whole lot of developers really on it. The help channel is the most commonly used one. So things could easily be broken out. Like if we were to have something like this, but official, we could have channels for devs to talk about QEPs, actually have discussions about core development and stuff. Could have more involvement maybe in the plugins, stuff like that. But there's mixed emotions about Discord with it being proprietary. A lot of people claim it's got abusive terms of service. That's a big reason why some open source communities don't use it. Actually, Blender does not use anything proprietary. They don't even use GitHub because GitHub itself is not open source. They do have a GitHub mirror though.
Okay.
But for their community, they have Rocket Chat, which is meant to be more of a Slack alternative. So its layout is a little different. One thing that is nice about QGIS or about Discord is you can have role-based permissions. So you can tag users or members with certain tags, and those tags can grant or deny them access to certain things. Like if you have a channel for core devs and you don't want everyone just spamming there, hey, Niall, can you do this, and have giant grocery lists all targeted to Niall. You could have permissions, so those who are tagged with the core dev tag have read and write access to that channel, whereas everyone else's has read-only access. And say you get this not so nice rule-abiding member who needs some discipline or something, you could slap a read-only role that they can't post anything. All they can do is look. Then after a certain time has passed, moderators can choose to withdraw that role. And repeated offenses, they can kick the user. So there's a lot of potential.
Could people join it would they need like an invite? Can they join and we kick people who are not? Because I think one of the great things about the Telegram group is anyone can join and it's so easy. I mean, obviously there are a couple of users that are like, wah, wah, and delete them. But it's, how does that work? Because I am kind of interested. I don't know, Tim, what you think.
I think Discord scales better than anything else.
I can tell you that what I think and what the community thinks are not necessarily aligned. And so I think, like I said, wherever people find it comfortable to gather and talk about QGIS, for me, that's a great place to be using. And but if on the project steering committee and so on, they let's say a bunch of the core community members, they're much more like of the Blender kind of orientation towards wanting to run everything on open source. I really don't see the point in that. I think we should really go where people are and not try to mandate every aspect of people's lives in terms of how they talking about QGIS or interacting with it. I mean, for our project, we've decided to make it open source, but we don't have to try to control everything else around. But anyway, but the thing is that there are a few very vocal people who would complain if you were to go and set up a Discord or something else, and try to make it official. There's no problem having it unofficial, but if you try to make it an official thing, you could expect a bit of resistance. But then I think you just need to be ready to have a good explanation why it's like actually good for the community to have these things. But I think it would be really nice to just gather a list of all the places that you can meet. So like the fellow from Germany comes along, we can say, oh, there's the German Discord group, or whatever it is. And I'm a pragmatic open source enthusiast, not a zealot.
Well, basically, the answer to Andrea's question is we're thinking about it. So,
I think part of the problem is that we have a lot of places to connect, right? So you've got IRC that's been around forever, but us fancy millennial types don't want to deal with that donkey technology. So I think
IRC
that was one of the draws.
Does have its limits.
Yeah, I mean, like the Matrix, the concept behind Matrix was that it would be this unified bridge all communications to one place, kind of Nexus type technology. It just doesn't quite work that way in practice. And I would say, like, out of all of these tools, like you think about Slack, it's a business tool. Like Slack actually have taken the position, like, we are not a community tool. Like that's not what people find another platform. So like Discord, I would say, like, scales and provides these much more interaction to it. But it also, like Tim says, there will be pushback. I mean, we don't really have a forum platform because there's no way that we can do that without, like, there's no free hosting for it, right? So everybody uses GIS Stack Exchange. I personally don't use Stack Exchange because, like, I found the community's hostile and, like, everybody's trying to correct your spelling for more points, and, like, it's just horrible. Close this duplicate without a reference to the actual duplicate question. Like, the GIS community is good, but, like, most other communities aren't as nice, and I don't like the platform. I would say GitHub discussions is, like, it's fresh off the press. It's like a new thing, but I would much prefer it. But other people say, we've already got a forum thing. Like, so when you've got such a large community, like, I think Tim's idea of, like, have a big list of unofficial. This is where we can connect. See what grows, and then when it gets to like scale, then you go to the PSC and you say, "I want a badge, please. Give me."
Yeah, but for something like Discord, I really don't think the PSC would actually ever approve Discord as an official, no matter how large it grows. But
I see. Ethan, you mentioned Revolt.
yeah, that's what I meant. I thought it was right, but the name of it was Revolt. It's presently in beta, but it is meant to be a Discord open source Discord clone, just without all the quote unquote abusive terms of service and all the other issues revolving around that.
See, Ethan, my problem is with, I mean, the reason one of the reasons I'm pragmatic is that, well, besides just wanting to let people use the tools that they're comfortable with, is that all of these self-hosted things, like we've got a lot of infrastructure in QGIS already that, amongst of which, our people in this room help to manage, and it's a lot of work to keep all these servers going and keep keep everything up, and if we've got to manage another chat room and whatever, keep that up as well. It's like, unless there's somebody really dedicated who comes along with the offer, then I'm always like, I'd rather just use whatever's Telegram. It doesn't cost us any time except just booting the odd spammer out of there. But like for me to get like on some self-hosted thing, to have to come with an offer or somebody to actually manage it, a sincere offer.
Stuff like this also has options where they host themselves. Like, for instance, Rocket Chat offers hosting, but they're also completely free open source. So you can self-host a Rocket Chat instance if you want, or you could use one of their hosting options.
Right. But then I start to think, like, my response to that is like, do we want to spend QGIS donor money on hosting a chat server, or do we want to spend on bug fixes? So again, if it comes with a donation from from the platform or something, that's fine. But otherwise, it starts to begin because there's a lot of things we could spend QGIS donor money on, and we do spend some on
Charlie's Ferrari. We should be spending it on Charlie's Ferrari.
But really, in the scheme of things, we spend probably 1% or less on infrastructure and other sort of overheads, and all of the rest of the money goes to bug fixing, which is where the high value is. And bug fixing, or the grant program, or hackfests, things like that. So, so if we want to spend money on hosting a Rocket Chat server, I prefer to use Telegram, or what are you on, Discord or something, where it's free basically, and I don't care that much about not owning the platform. I care about owning QGIS code, but like the chat platform's not my crusade.
Alrighty, so complex, and I think let's stick with Telegram for now.
I think that's why your QEP, because I did read it as well. I thought, okay, this is going to be like a long debate, and anything that is going to land up in a long debate, like, you have to have real enthusiasm for the thing that you're proposing, and be ready to push through all the resistance if you're going to propose it.
It was meant to be more of an open discussion, and I proposed a solution, or at the time I proposed Rocket Chat, but it was meant for like an open discussion.
Yeah.
Looking at the limitations of things like Matrix, IRC, and Telegram, how you're very limited to a single room and a single chat. Yeah. It's more like a giant group chat and doesn't really work that well for large communities. So it was more just to get a discussion started over, is this really the best solution or best platform for a community?
What was that QEP number again?
Let me see.
Just paste it in the chat.
Yeah.
New
Alrighty.
QGIS community proposal. Maybe we should change the title to new. So you've got a new community for the community. I've got it here. I'll put it in.
It could easily rename that to something a little better.
I did use Rocket Chat in its early days as well. It's very nice. I'm sure it's just improved since I used it.
Yeah, but one of the things that is missing from Rocket Chat are things like role-based permissions. It's more free for all because it's meant to be more of a Slack clone than it is a Discord clone.
Alrighty. Well, it's 6:15 in my area of the world. So do you mind if I bring our open session to a close and we can continue discussing this at another time?
Yeah, Ethan, let's let me have a read through it again. Maybe we put it on the maybe why don't we have a session on it the next open day, and we can probably talk through everything, and then we can go to the the PSC with the proposal to say we want to have an official channel and this is a proposal.
I think the PSC would be more inclined if it was on a more open platform, like for instance, Revolt. I think some platforms do offer free hosting for nonprofit and open source communities. Let me look at Rocket Chat real quick, because I think they might.
You can definitely self-host Rocket. So like what I was saying earlier is like if you bring your proposal with an offer to actually manage it, it will go a lot more smoothly than if it's saying here's an idea for a new chat and like mic drop and leave the room and then somebody else got to kind of deal with it. That's when you're probably going to have more of a hard time.
If Platform X will let the QGIS community live there for free so that they can put a QGIS badge on their website or something.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Sure. Shame Amy's trying to get out of here. Okay, we'll pick it up next time.
It's all right. I don't mind.
No dinner, no weekend.
Amy, fire and I'm frying already.
we're going to crack the whip.
Oh, there was one thing I did forget to answer, Amy. You had asked about public access to the link for joining. There are public links you can use to join on Discord, so that is a thing. You could also set invite links to expire after a certain date or after a certain number of uses.
Okay, great. Alrighty, cool. Then I'm going to wrap up this session. I think it's a great idea, Tim, for next open day to have more discourse on this. And also to have just a session for new people. So look out for those sessions. I will be making the new wiki probably in the next 2 weeks. So look out for those. And whoever else wants to contribute, please come forward. The sessions are always informal, always loads of information going around, and we generally get some amazing open source and QGIS gurus to help us out. So thank you to everyone who has joined us on the open day journey. I'm going to end the YouTube stream now, and thank you all for joining.
Peace.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Alrighty, YouTube stream has ended. We can carry on talking in this room.